This is the plaintiff, David Green. He says the defendant, his ex-girlfriend, was between jobs, needed some money, and because he's a good guy, he loaned her some. Unfortunately, they split up, and now he's having one heck of a time getting the defendant to pay him the $4,900 he's owed. So here they are. This is the defendant, Janina DePrado. She says the plaintiff was going through a divorce during the time they dated, and he wanted her to get a one-bedroom apartment and offered to pay a portion of her rent. The guy's a genius at what he does, but he's also a mean person who's now trying to turn a gift into a loan, and that's so not cool. She's accused of sticking it to an ex.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff loaned his then-girlfriend money, and she stiffed him. But she says the plaintiff was going through a divorce, and he gave her the money to get an apartment. Emphasis on gave. It's the case of crib wars.
Mr. Green, you are suing Janina DePrado for $4,900 in a loan that you say you extended to her when you were dating and that she refuses to repay. Tell me what happened.
In February of 2012, Mr. Prado was getting evicted from her old apartment in New York. I believe it was on West 86th Street. And she was looking for a new apartment. She found an apartment at East 66th Street, and she asked me if I would lend her the money for the first month.
How long had you been dating?
We met in June of 2011.
And this was when?
March of 2012.
Okay, so go on.
And she called me up, and I believe it was on a Friday in a huff, that I had to get the $4,900 in cash to the broker by that day, and I have a receipt from the broker for the $4,900.
I don't think there's a dispute that the $4,900 was paid, and I don't think there's a dispute that it came from you. So go on.
Over time, I asked Mr. Prado to pay me back on numerous occasions. She constantly gave, one excuse after another, and we ultimately ended.
Did you live together?
No.
In that apartment?
No, I've never even spent a night in that apartment.
Okay. When did you folks break up?
September of 2013.
Okay. So from March 2012 to September of 2013, do you have any record of insisting upon payment?
No.
Okay. Let me hear from you.
The $4,900 was 1/3 of the annual rent. So in other words, he agreed to pay 1/3 of my rent for 1 year, which equals...
Why though?
That was just what he agreed to pay.
But why?
Because I couldn't move into his apartment in Tribeca because he was still going through a divorce.
Okay.
So he agreed to pay 1/3 of my rent.
But why does he have to pay any of your rent? He's just dating you, because...
Right, he doesn't have to pay 1/3 of my rent.
Why don't you just get what you can afford?
That was supposed to be our apartment in the city because I couldn't move into his apartment, and he agreed to give me pay 1/3 of my rent. I would be paying 2/3. He gave me 6 months of the 1/3 upfront.
According to your answer to the complaint, he wanted you to get a one-bedroom. You wanted to get a studio. He wanted you to get a one-bedroom so there'd be more room for him.
Right.
Okay. Why did you have to get this apartment? Because you wanted more room? Because he wanted you to have more room?
Because he wanted me to have more room.
So who takes advantage of who more in the money department, men or women?
I would have to say men. In today's day, definitely men.
Why do you say?
Some women are bringing home the bacon, so.
That's true, but some men are too. I'm going to go to you. You're going to get the last word.
Men.
Why?
Just the way it is.
You look so guilty. Oh my God, going inside the courtroom.
Did he says he never spent the night there.
No, he never spent the night there. I was always at his house in New Jersey.
So I don't see what the more room is for. All right, so was this a loan or a gift?
It was a gift. From my understanding of our conversations, it was a gift.
Did he ever tell you that you had to pay him back before you broke up?
But he would always, there were many times where he would give me loans for, whatever, ancillary situations or items, saying they were loans, the other situations saying they were loans, and then gifting them to me, not making me pay them back. This situation, was different. He didn't ask me for a repayment from my recollection.
I don't understand what you're just saying, because that was very mealy-mouthed. Well, did he give it to you as a gift, or did he give it to you as a loan, and all his other loans turned into gifts, so you figured this one would?
Right.
So when he gave it to you, it was a loan?
From my recollection, it was not a loan.
What did he say?
Well, during our conversations, I did not consider it a loan.
I'm not asking you what you consider, because I don't really care what you considered. I care what was said. According to you, what was said?
That it was a gift, that he was giving me the money. He went, like he said, he went to get the cash from the bank and gave it to the broker.
That's also what you do when you're giving somebody a loan. So the fact that he went to get money from a bank and gives it to the broker is irrelevant to me. What I want to know is what was said when you asked him for the money or he offered the money. Did anyone say, I'll pay you back, or you have to pay me back?
I mean...
Is there anything in writing?
I don't have anything in
writing. Is there
writing.
any text, any emails, anything?
No.
I may have said at the time, because I was desperate to get the money to pay the broker, I didn't want to lose the apartment, I may have said, I'll pay you back. But, as I would have said in other situations, but it wasn't.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a commercial pilot. I also, I have a law degree, but I'm not practicing.
Can I ask you a question? Someone with a law degree, where'd you go to law school?
NYU.
Someone with a law degree from NYU, no less. Why would you make a loan to a girlfriend without getting something in writing? Some memorialization?
I trusted her.
Oh, no. That you're trying to when I'm asking you a question to point out a severe shortcoming in you, you're trying to volley the shortcoming to her as being untrustworthy, right?
It was clearly a loan. There was
That's what like a 19-year-old litigant does in front of me in their first love. You're an NYU graduate of law school.
I haven't practiced law in 25 years.
Do you have connected brain cells?
Yes.
Why would you not get it in writing?
I probably should have.
Yeah, you think? Because I was about to rule against you until she started to bury herself. And I was about to rule against you to the tune of $4,900. And you were about to eat it until she started to bury herself under cross-examination. Because I think it was, in fact, now a loan. But you had no evidence that it was a loan, counselor. Whether you're practicing law or not. You don't need to practice law. You need to watch the people's court. Jeez Louise. By the way, who broke up with who and why?
I broke up with him.
Why?
I broke up with her.
Oh. Can't even agree on that. What do you say?
Many reasons.
Okay, what do you say?
I'm not going to slander her. I mean, I had my reasons with regard to various behavior, but I don't want to.
What did you say?
Irreconcilable differences, I guess.
Did she ever pay back any loans that you made to her?
Once she paid me back a $400 loan.
How much money went from here to there?
It was dribs and drabs, $100 here, $200 there.
What do I make of the fact that for 2 years you don't enforce, well, a year and something, you don't enforce the loan at all because she's still your main squeeze. And then all of a sudden, when you guys break up, is when you want to revive the loan. I
repeatedly asked her during the course of the relationship, long before the breakup, that she needs to pay me back this $4,900.
And her answer to you would be, I don't have it, I don't have it.
Lending her $20 for bus fare or something like that. This was, a substantial amount. I was there for her when she needed me. I came up with the $4,900 in cash within hours. I gave it to the broker so she could have a place to live, and.
Mr. Prado, let me suggest something to you. Why don't you live within your means and not be beholden to a man? What do you do for a living?
I'm in human resources.
Say it again.
Human resources.
Do you make a good living?
Fair.
Right? Okay. $4,900 verdict for the plaintiff.
See what the defendant has to say coming out on the losing end of this case. What is your reaction to the outcome, having to pay this money?
Well, I didn't really. It was a long time ago. I didn't have any evidence to support my case, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was your own testimony. As the judge said, she would have ruled against him if not for your own testimony.
I mean, I've never been sued before, so I've never been in a situation like this.
What'd you see in him when you had a good relationship?
I don't think that that's really relevant.
Okay, right that way. Satisfied how this comes out?
Yes, I think it's fair. There was no dispute that this was a loan, and
well, you didn't have any evidence. What kind of a law student are you?
I've been a law student 30 years ago, but she admitted and acknowledged that this was a loan. And, I think the judge...
Lucky for you, she did that.
I guess so.
Otherwise, you would have lost.
Perhaps.
Harvey?
Real simple. A gift has to be clearly made. If it's not a gift, it's a presumption that it's a loan.